Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your DFS preview for this week's Shriners Hospitals for Children Open. And joining me to break it all down, as he does every single week, it's Greg DuCharme. Greg, how about that name for an event right there? That's a long one.
It's a long one, but it's a fun one. This is a fun event. One of my favorites on tour every year. You're going to see a ton of birdies this week. And you got some big names in the field. We got our solid field this week. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Not only do I like this event, I was there, not here. It's in Las Vegas, Thursday last year. I was the only person out there, Greg. I could walk anywhere I wanted, see anybody that I want. I highly encourage you, when fans come back, go to the Shriners on Thursday. You can go anywhere you want, and it's a great little course.
I love it. And you're going to see great action, and the players seem to like it. So we'll talk about these guys, but you got a great field. And here's the other thing I was looking at today, Rick. All of the big names in the field, the stars in the field, are there. They have great records here. They've all played well here. So you're going to see a leaderboard that is very likely to be full of big names.
Big time boost to the Shriners this year, because this starts the mini Las Vegas swing. This is a week here at TPC Summerlin. Then what would have been the CJ Cup in Korea is now being played at Shadow Creek. So anybody who was going to play the CJ Cup probably figures, hey, might as well play the Shriners as well. And what we get out of that is a pretty strong field. When I didn't realize, and then when Friday afternoon the field came out, and I was like, oh my God, it's stacked. I mean, Bryson's here, Webb is here, Cantlay, Tony, Hideki, Morikawa, like, come on.
Yeah, add Matthew Wolff into the mix. There's a great mix of young up and coming stars, and you have some great veteran players who have been in good form. So this is an exciting one. I mean, it is, Rick, the strongest field in the tournament's history. Almost half the top 30 is here. So it's going to be a good one.
What I also love as a data guy, having the same course since 1992. TPC Summerlin has played host every year since 1992. That makes for good data, Greg. It is a par 71, the odd 71, 7,200 yards, bent grass greens, and your defending champion is Kevin Na, who also won here in 2011. I think that's the 2012 season, 2011 year, because you got to go low. You got to go low and shoot probably something 20-ish under par.
You just start to go through and look at past history of players here, and you'll see, well, Webb Simpson came and tied seventh. He shot 19 under par. And you kind of just start thinking, wait a second.
That's a joke.
He was 19. And I'm not sure if that was exactly fact, but I remember going through this thinking, wow, he went really low. He shot every 66, 67, 66, 67, tied eighth, right? And you're kind of like, okay, well, nice finish, nice playing, but not going to get the job done. So yeah, you're looking at a golf course that's on the short side. Just on the card, it's on the short side. And then you're at a little bit of elevation. So the ball is going to go a little bit farther. And then you add in that the fairways are maybe a little wider than normal. And wider fairways, hitting more fairways leads to more distance, at least landing the ball in the fairway, because there's no rough to slow the ball down. So if you're landed it in the fairway, which the fairways are wider here, you're going to get a little bit of extra distance. So you're going to see a short course play short. And that's a big reason why there are so many birdies out here.
There's also, I don't know how else to describe it, lack of rough around here. I mean, you can pretty much get away with hitting it wherever you want, going and finding it and having wedge into some of these greens. And then, as we've talked about at some of these events, it can turn into a little bit of a putting contest, but you don't have to worry about missing the fairway around here.
Yeah, this is going to turn into a wedge fest and a putting contest. And that's why you look at the list of past champions, you have 2018 Bryson, who is a completely different person.
That's true.
So you have also Kevin Na, you have Patrick Cantlay, you have Smiley Kaufman, one here, Ben Martin, Webb Simpson is one here. So these are players who are not necessarily bombers. Even though the fairways are wide, you would think, oh, bomber's paradise. But because it's at that distance where everybody has, it's short for everybody. everybody can reach the par fives. Everybody can reach the drivable par four out there. So it almost takes, in some ways, and I'm interested to get your thoughts on this. In some ways, it takes the advantage from the bomber of bombers. It takes that away a little bit because everybody's got a wedge. So wedge and putting contest.
Before we jump into the player pool, don't forget you can send in your questions in the Apple Podcast review. Best way to support us, drop a 5-star rating and review. Leave a question. We'll be more than happy to answer it on the pod. Greg, $10,000 range. Only 4 golfers here. Bryson DeChambeau, as well-deserved, headlines this field, 11,800. Webb Simpson at 11,000 even. Patrick Cantlay at 10,400. And Tony Finau at 10,200. So I want to talk through the players here, but maybe I was surprised to see Cantlay Finau be the 3rd and 4th most expensive golfers in this field. I don't know how you felt when this came out or if it even matters by a couple $100, but this would not have been the 4 golfers at the top of the player pool that I would have put there.
Well, Patrick Cantlay hasn't necessarily been lights out lately, although Patrick Cantlay some years would probably be the top of the field. And he has a great record here. In fact, he's never finished outside the top 2 at this event. Yeah. Yes, you heard me correct. Patrick Cantlay has never finished outside the top 2 in the 3 times that he's played here. He has 2 seconds and a win. So that's part of the reason for sure why he's way up there. And Tony Finau doesn't have a bad record there. Webb has a phenomenal record there. A number of top 10s along with a win. This is another Webb course. And Bryson's won there. So I'm not sure, Rick. I understand where they're coming from here. I'm not surprised.
All right. Well, when we get down to the $9,000 range, I'll make a case for one of those guys. But let's focus on the top here. I mean, Bryson DeChambeau, 11,800. Greg, I think you're very well aware of this. I don't love usually paying for the top guy. Golf is very volatile. A lot of things can happen. It eats up a lot of your salary cap. I don't have a reason to not play Bryson. I mean, he's coming off the U.S. Open win, which I guess is the only quote unquote knock against him. We know that the fit, right? The course fit, being able to hit it as far as you want, being able to roll putts in. Bryson checks off both of those boxes in a big way. He's got the course history, 3 consecutive top 7 finishes, including the win 2 years ago. I mean, I can't make a case for staying away.
Well, you can, and it's the price, right? And it's the fact that he just won. So do you believe in the floodgates theory where you win a major championship and all of a sudden you are the favorite and deservedly so, you're going to win the event one out of every 3 times or 4 times? I mean, that's kind of where we're thinking about Bryson. It's hard to imagine him not winning this tournament because he's playing so well. He's played well here before. It sets up perfectly for him. And he does, as you said, Rick, he checks all the boxes. Yet at the same time, this is golf and this is challenging and nobody wins every single time. So to me with Bryson, I'm comfortable shorting it here because I think a lot of people are going to be like you and take him, even though he's priced at 11,800, which is it's just really high for me. But I feel like because the playing resume here at the Shriners for everybody else in the group is so strong, I don't know if I can just hand this to Bryson. You're going to have to make a ton of birdies. This is not an easy tournament to win, even though it's one of the easier golf courses on the PGA Tour. That's something I think a lot of people confuse in their mind. Easy golf course does not mean easy victory. And hard golf course does not always mean really hard victory. Just ask Brooks Koepka. Sometimes it can make it a little bit easier. So I have enough of a way that he doesn't. I can see a path to him not winning that is, I think, too easy for him to be priced this high. So I can pass on Bryson.
Okay, so if you pass on Bryson, then is the easy pivot to Webb, who has great history here. He's a past winner. Okay, so that's which, and I'll be interested to see. We'll get ownership projections as the week goes on, and like if there is a situation where Bryson checks in at expected to be 25% owned and Webb is 12. Bryson's not 2 times as likely to win this golf tournament as Webb is.
Right, and absolutely. Now, it is interesting because with Bryson, he plays this game that we can only imagine what it's going to be like. And I think back to when I was playing junior golf, just starting. Man, next year, if I could just start hitting my driver instead of 240, if I could get it to 280, I'd have pitching wedge into the first hole. It'd be an easy birdie every time. Like, you start thinking about Bryson's game, and he's going to drive it up to the front edge of every green and pitch it on and make birdie on every hole. And he's going to run away with every tournament that he plays. But it doesn't happen that way. With Webb, for me, he also checks all the boxes.
All right, so I know we're going to end up talking about every single golfer here, but I think the guys that you like the most might be Cantlay and Finau, right?
It's hard for me with Cantlay not to want to play him. I mean, you think about what we've seen. We haven't seen a lot out of him since the restart. And although it hasn't been great, sometimes going back to a golf course like this can lead to that great performance, right?
That's what he needs. He needs that spark.
Right. And it hasn't been bad. It's not like we're looking at a guy like Dustin Johnson shooting 80, 78. I mean, it's not on that level. It's just he hasn't contended the way we kind of have expected. He also hasn't played enough to really get into a rhythm. And I'm not sure if there's something wrong. I'm not sure why. If this is just a unique year and he was kind of taking it easy, I'm not sure. But I know for a Patrick Cantlay, going back to a tournament like this where in your 3 starts you finished second, and first, I know that it's very likely to create a spark. And the other thing about his game, Rick, is his iron play, his wedge play is phenomenal.
Yeah,
that becomes just a huge advantage. He's going to be able to pump short irons in there all day long and give himself great birdie looks. I think it's going to be a huge advantage for him.
Let's jump down to the 9K range, because this is where I'll make the case, Greg, for the guy that I thought should have been the 3rd favorite in this field and then basically the 3rd highest priced golfer. It's Collin Morikawa. I mean, $9,800 feels dirty. Feels like a steal, quite frankly. And I know it's only, I know I'm talking $400 cheaper than Tony Finau, $600 cheaper than Patrick Cantlay. It might not be that big of a deal in the scheme of things, but he's won twice in his last 8 starts. Like, what are we doing here? He's a Las Vegas resident. He's sleeping in his own bed. Like, get out of town. There is no way, no offense to Hunky Tony, who should be higher priced than Collin Morikawa. He
is the best value in the entire field, right? I mean, I would say
definitely above like 9,000,
right? He's a phenomenal value. And you think about the reasons why. Well, I think he's probably priced this way because he's only played here once, and last year it didn't go so well. I think it was like a tied 40th or something like that, with 2 poor weekend rounds. But this is a different player than we saw in last year's rendition of the of this tournament. And the reason for that is his putting has improved. And in those last 2 wins that you speak of, in his last 8 starts, the putting is something that has really come around. The U.S. Open didn't go the way that he wanted, which, look, that can happen for anybody. It can happen very quickly. So it's not necessarily a sign of poor play. It's golf at the highest level. It's the most challenging golf you can ever get. But now you're going to a place where the premium is really on your short irons, your wedges, and iron play in general. And there aren't many players in the game. And I don't think there's anybody in this field who I feel more confident with a short iron or a wedge in their hand than Collin Morikawa. Maybe Webb Simpson is really close, but there's not many.
Here's I guess the only thing I'd be worried about is his ability to hit fairways at a higher rate than every single other player in the field might not matter all that much this week.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't,
Yeah.
but you can still position. It's still useful, right?
Yeah.
Just because the difference between fairway and rough isn't strong. See, I think, Rick, this creates what we call a second shot golf course. When you take rough out, it becomes second shot. Whereas at a U.S. Open at Winged Foot, narrow fairways and rough, it becomes a first shot golf course, like we talked about leading into that tournament. This is quite different. It's a second shot golf course. And for a Collin Morikawa, I think that plays right into his strength. So although just because one strength is mitigated, the real strength of his game, I think, is highlighted this week. So I love Morikawa.
And let me point out this little thing before we move on here. So the story is Morikawa's a poor putter, and it's not necessarily wrong, but I break this up into 2 different segments. Before the shutdown, he was losing about 0.17 strokes per round on the greens. After the restart, he was on the positive side, 0.16. That's a third of a stroke per round. Now he's a plus putter. If he's going to be a plus putter for the rest of his career, he's going to win a ton.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's going to torch events like this.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
You look, he's just all of a sudden when you take your bad putting rounds and you just raise them up to where 0 is bad. Every time you hit a good putt, you make a good stroke, you're gaining, right? It's an advantage. It's a bonus. You're not fighting back losses that you already had. You're constantly moving forward. It creates a huge advantage, especially for a guy that hits the ball the way that he does with the irons.
Sell me on Ricky Fowler, who we know has been going through the swing changes. He's been struggling. He gets into contention. He kind of falls out. He's an even 9,000 and he's on our outline as a Greg play. So I'd like to know why, Mr. Greg.
Yeah, well, he's played well here before. A number of top 10s. I want to say he's got 3 top 10s here in the past, just off the top of my head. And I think there's kind of a restart that's happening. I think there's a very clear reset moment for Ricky today. And not just our producer, Jacob, but Ricky Fowler also have their first wedding anniversary today, which is extremely exciting news. Happy anniversary, Jacob.
Was it a double wedding? Ricky. Was it a double wedding, producer Jacob? Did you and Ricky get married at the same time? Was it like a 2-2 thing?
No, I think it was just a double honeymoon.
No, it was not a double honeymoon. We did not get access to the Puma jet.
Well,
that's awesome.
I'm sorry to hear that. But hey, Ricky's lost. But since then, Ricky, we haven't seen great form. And I'm not blaming the wedding on that by any means. But Ricky's a guy who has a lot going on in his life. You think about a newlywed who is doing all the commercials, all the promotions, all the off the course, golf course things that he's doing. And then you add in a new swing change to it. There's a lot going on. And I think that's part of the reason why this past year was a little bit of a challenge. And then you add in all the complications that everybody has gone through with the virus and all of that. It's been hard for everybody. So it just makes the year that much harder. And I think there's a little bit of a rebirth coming, a little bit of a reset coming, much like Patrick Cantlay. This year, if you look at what's happened in these tournaments, it hasn't really been guys who have been playing really well that have played well. Guys seem to have been able to reset. Sergio Garcia is an example of that. Although he's been hitting it well, he had a kind of a reset week with the putter. You had Charlie Hoffman last week, who kind of comes out of nowhere and plays really well. You had Ian Poulter overseas play really well in the Scottish Open. There's a reset time when the season ends. And for Ricky Fowler, I believe he's going to come out to a place he's comfortable and play really well. And he's always done well in the desert too. He won I think it was his last win, the Waste Management Phoenix Open. He's always played well at the American Express. So I think Ricky's due for a good week, although it is definitely a little bit of a flyer. He doesn't check all the boxes the way some of them do, but like Morikawa. But I think he's due for a good week.
There's a few opportunities where, this still being a salary cap game, you kind of have to zig when others are zagging. Scotty Scheffler's $9,400, which means he's $2,000 cheaper than he was last week. Yes, he did not win that golf tournament, but he made the cut. He was obviously shaking off rust. Like, there's part of me that thinks, well, he's $9,400. No offense to Harris English, but Scotty Scheffler's way better than Harris English is. I might as well just buy Scotty again.
I don't know if I'd say he's way better than Harris English. Maybe if you look at a career trajectory, you would, like if you were buying futures in these players, you would no question buy Scotty over Harris English. But I think right now, Harris English is playing just as well as almost anybody. He's hitting the ball beautifully and he's contending week after week after week, showing remarkable consistency. So there is definitely a place on your team for Harris English. But your point is valid. I mean, you want to take a little bit of a risk with Scotty Scheffler coming in now into his second week after a forced absence from the U.S. Open. All of a sudden, I mean, this guy checks boxes too. He's great with short irons and wedges. He hits it plenty far, which we know isn't necessarily important at this event. But your favorite aspect of Scotty Scheffler in fantasy, Rick, he makes a ton of birdies and eagles. And this golf course presents a ton of birdie and eagle opportunities. So it is a really good fit for Scotty Scheffler. And I do think you're getting him at a pretty good discount.
I have another one of those golfers in the 8K range that I want to get into, but first we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners. That other guy that I think is just by default kind of a good play is Louis Oosthuizen. He's $8,800. He was, I understand it's a completely different field. I understand we've got, 12 of the top 50 or 12 of the top 30 or whatever it is here. He was like $11,000 last week. I mean, he's $2,000 cheaper than he was last week. He didn't even play. It's not like he missed the cut. He did not even play. I kind of liked him last week. Why wouldn't I like him this week again, coming off of a third place finish at the US Open? He's made 6 or 7 straight cuts, and now he's $2,000 cheaper.
He's one of my favorite players to watch because that golf swing is just gorgeous. There's something about Louis where he shows up in really big tournaments. He is I consider him to be a big game hunter. He's one of those guys who, in an event like this, you could see maybe a sluggish start. You know how Boo Weekley was a guy who said he'd rather be fishing and hunting? I get it. He plays golf because he's good at it, and that's kind of it's his job. He goes to work and plays golf. Whereas if he had his choice, he wouldn't be doing that. And there are a couple of players through time who have been that way. Louis, I feel like may be that way, where it's something that he does because he's really good at it and it's work for him, but it's not his first choice. So what does that? Well, when the moment gets really big, he's first of all calm, but there's a little bit of extra incentive. This is a big payday. This is an important week for me. And a week like this, maybe you just don't see his name pop up as often in some of these regular events, especially when scoring gets really low. You don't see Louis Oosthuizen finishing events at 25 under par very often, but you will see him at 6 under when 8 under wins. He's very good in those really hard golf courses. So that would be my one concern with him, although I do really like the price.
Okay, so who else in this $8,000 range, which it's, led off by Jason Kokrak and Louis Oosthuizen at 89 and 8,800. And then it goes down to Joaquin Niemann at 81, and then Brian Harman and Keegan Bradley rounded out at a flat $8,000. Is there anybody in here, Greg, that really moves the needle for you?
There are 2 guys that I really like. And one other guy I want to mention briefly. Abraham Ancer and Russell Henley stick out to me as guys that I really like. For one, they're excellent iron players, both of them. Now, Abraham Ancer is another one of those guys where his straight driving, you could argue, is an advantage that gets taken away because you don't need to drive it straight. But his iron play has been great as well. And if you remember back to the RBC Heritage, he hit a ton of, I think he hit 17 greens on Sunday. So he is a great ball striker as well. And when he gets into the desert, he plays very well. The tournament that sticks out to me is I think it was at the time, the Career Builder Challenge.
Yes.
Which is now the American Express, where he shot 63 on Sunday and came in second place. So he's comfortable in this environment as well. I think he's going to have a great week. And then Russell Henley, really his iron play really sticks out to me as something that last year was elite. And I like when players have one area of their game that is that they can lean on, that is dominant. And this week, when that's iron play, I like that even more. So Russell Henley, another guy who I don't think is afraid to go really low. I think you could see some really low scores from him. If he gets it going with that, with the putter, watch out. And then the other guy that I want to talk about is Cameron Davis, who
let's do it.
I think his price, Rick, is kind of showing the play that he's had of late, the consistent play of late. But unfortunately, I think it's maybe a little bit high. I think the price is a little bit high for him, especially when you have a Joaquin Niemann right there at 81.
The problem with Cameron Davis, as much as I love him, he seems to eject on every weekend that he's in contention.
Yeah. You feel like that's going to, I feel like it's going to change one of these days, but I don't know if it's this weekend, and I don't know if it's enough to make me pay $8,200 for him.
He showed that upside, which was, what was it, like a 63 on Saturday or whatever, where it's just like you can go low, make a bunch of birdies. I like that around here. And I agree. He's going to continue to not knock at the door. One of these times it's going to open, or he's just not going to fade on the weekend or on Sunday. Like, it's coming, but how many more failures do we need? I mean, sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's not many.
And how many weeks are you going to contend in a row? That can get tiring. It can get exhausting. So I have my questions. I'd really like him if he was at 7,900. I would really like Cameron Davis again because I've been riding that horse all start to the year, as you have too. But I think at 82, I'm not sure the juice is worth the squeeze, as they say.
The $7,000 range, led off by Doc Redman, Sebastian Munoz, $7,900, all the way down to, there's a bunch of guys here at 7,000 flat. Pat Perez, Kevin Streelman may be the most notable. Rory Sabatini, sorry, producer Jacob, he is $7,000 as well. I would like to make a case, Greg, for a guy that I think is at a turning point of his career, and I also think he could win this week.
Who? tell me
now that
more,
I've built this up, I'm nervous now that I've built this up.
Now you're saying, well, who do I want to go with? Because I got a couple of crossroads guys I like here. Who's it going to be? Who's going to win?
It's Denny McCarthy. Okay, so here's this guy. We've been tracking this because I'm telling you, if you look at his game, something happened at the 3M Open. He started to hit his irons a lot better. And here are the numbers. We're now up to 6 events, measured events since the 3M Open. He has gained a total of 12.9 strokes on approach. Okay. To put that into perspective, in the 6 events previous to the 3M Open, he lost 15.9 strokes. That's like what, a 29 stroke swing in one facet of the game. It's unbelievable. Then you put that together with a guy who is literally the best putter on the PGA Tour for 2 consecutive seasons. You get him at a place that might turn into a putting contest, and he's rounding the corner with the rest of his game. Let's go. Denny McCarthy, fire it up.
And and then you add the price into the mix. It's not even like, I mean, he's at 7,700. Right. This is almost a no-brainer. The one thing with Denny that I wonder, and I have him as a play too, but my one area of concern is, are you going to see him? Is he ready to win? I think it's clear, as you said, that his game is improving. And there's Cameron Davis to me is at that place where his game is there. It's just, there's that next step of, are you ready to go ahead and get the job done? Are you ready to step up and do it for 72 holes? Do you believe in yourself that much? And that's what we have to find out with Denny McCarthy, because I'm with you. His game is there. The fit this week is there. Is Denny McCarthy in his mind ready to take that step to win? If he is, or if he isn't, it doesn't matter for fantasy purposes. He's a great buy, and he's definitely in my lineups.
I like a guy that you have listed here. You have Stuart Sinkin here, who won at Safeway, finished 12th in his next start, which was his last start at the Sanderson Farms. I thought I read his son is not going to be on the bag this week, so we've got to split a father and son caddy player team, but I don't think that's going to make too much of a difference.
What does he have, school or something? That may be the one concern. But I look at Stuart Sink as a player who's riding some great confidence. He's in a great place in his life. This is a time period, an age group that I generally worry about on the PGA Tour. Do you still believe, as a Stuart Sink or as a Jason Duffner or a Charles Howell III, when you're in this area, this age group, do you still believe you can compete? Do you still believe that you can go out there and beat a Matthew Wolff or a Colin Morikawa? What kind of attitude do you have? And right now, Stuart Sink has the attitude of, I'm going to go show these boys how to play. I'm a man and they're boys, and I'm going to show them how it's done. And that's the attitude he carries. And whether it's true or false, right or wrong, it leads to great play. And he's swinging great. He's putting great. He is playing extremely well in all areas of the game. And again, on a golf course where distance isn't a prerequisite, I think it bodes really well for a guy who's in the form of Stuart Sink.
I will make my weekly endorsement of Lanto Griffin, who is not a sub 7K, but $7,300. That's close enough. Continues to be one of the few golfers in this field, and especially one of the few golfers in this price range that gains strokes in all 4 categories. But Harold Varner III's back. HV3 at $7,500, 7th in this field since the restart in strokes gained tee to green. You know I love some tee to green, Greg. So Harold Varner III certainly makes my list, and he can just pile him onto the guys that need to break through on a Sunday eventually. We'll just keep piling them up.
Yep. He's in that group as well. It shows you it's really hard to get the job done. and not everybody can do it every week. Only one person can do it. So we'll see. But I like the pick. I like the play.
Couple of other guys here that have gotten hottish recently. Charlie Hoffman is in here. JT Poston, Brant Snedeker. Is there anyone else that might be noteworthy for you, Greg?
You know, it's interesting. JT Poston, you look at him, and there seems to be a type of grass he does really well on. The Bermuda grass. He did well at the Wyndham the year before. He won at the Wyndham, and then he did really well last week in that Bermuda grass. I wonder if going across country, bent grass greens now. I know you have some Bermuda grass as well, but is his game really there? Is this really going to last? I have questions about these guys still. The 1 week jump up, the pop up guys, are they ready to sustain? And I'm not ready to take that jump with that group yet.
Fair enough. The sub $7,000 range. Oh, mama. It is not necessarily the prettiest thing in the world. Adam Schenk, Cameron Tringale, Harry Higgs, Henrik Norlander, they're kind of part of the $6,900 range. And then I don't usually go all the way down to the bottom, but yeah, Zach Blair, Ted Potter Jr., Martin Trainer, flat $6,000. Is there one or two value plays that we can find in here that if we do, because here's the thing, if we do want to play Bryson, which I think a lot of people are going to opt to do, you might be filling out your lineups with some of these guys.
There's a point when you get down to this range where, like, all those guys that you just mentioned, you almost, it's not that you laugh at them, but you chuckle at the idea of putting them in your lineup. They have no chance this week. Yet they've all won they're all winners on the PGA Tour. And so they are fully capable. It's just they don't have anything close to the consistency. So when you get down into that range, you're almost you're now rolling the dice. I guess Vegas is the place to do it, but you're playing the slots. There's very little to go on that says, hey, this guy's going to do. You're going to find a group of major problems if you break it down into course history or recent form or the statistical models. You're going to find gaping holes down there. So you're with every player. So you're basically at a point where you're guessing. And if you think it's worth it to get Bryson in there, then it's not a bad idea to guess. But we always talk about this, Rick. What are you going to hang your hat on? I look at a guy like Charles Schwartzel. Okay. He jumps off the page at me in this range because I think he's playing some really good golf. And I think he is starting to believe that he's close. You see the number, tied 23rd at the Safeway Open with the 70 on Sunday. Not great. The Sanderson Farms last week, tied 32nd, 73 on Friday. Not a great round. He's putting together, he's closer than it looks. And then you add to it the 3M Open. He came and tied third, which was not all that long ago. So I think Charles Schwartzel is a guy that's swinging really well. He's got a little something going with the putter, and there's some confidence brewing. And I'm going to take a flyer on a Charles Schwartzel this week.
Okay, I like when you say, what is there to hang your hat on? And the way that I kind of translated that this week was look at one really solid kind of consistent player and one just like dart throw flyer high upside guy. So the two names that I came up with were at $6,900 is Adam Schenk, who he kind of gets this high floor designation until he proves us wrong. I think he's now up to 9 consecutive cuts made. Whatever it is tied with Harris English for the longest active streak in this field. And the only other active streaks on tour that are better than Adam Schenk's are like Rory, Rahm, Victor Hovland, and I'm missing one other guy, but it's like huge names. Okay. So we're talking about finding the weekend at a ridiculous clip. And then the other one, which is the absolute dart throw, it's Zinzun Zhang, who is,
oh yeah.
This guy is a statistical masterpiece. Let me tell you this. He is the most average PGA Tour player that we have. He is within a tenth of a stroke on the positive in every single category. So he's like the most average player there is, but he goes miscut, 11th, miscut, 14th. It's not like he finishes 56th every single week. He does it in such a volatile manner that I think that becomes interesting in certain DFS contests.
That kind of strategy gives you a little bit of, I won't call it win equity, but it's close to win equity, right? It's a guy who's going to give
equity.
Yeah, which can be great. It speaks to his style. You see a guy that's coming between 30th and 50th every single week on tour. That's a consistent player, but that's likely to be a more conservative style of play. You see a guy that nearly wins and misses the cut when he's feeling it with his swing. When he's found something with his swing, he can contend because he's playing aggressive enough to make a lot of birdies. When he is not feeling it, well, he's going to miss the cut and no big deal. Play 2 rounds, go home, see you next week. So it's very interesting, and I like that play, especially down in this range. That's the guy I prefer. Unless I have some high risk. If I'm taking risks up in the $8,000 or $9,000 range, I may go for a safer dark horse to just make sure I'm getting points on the weekend. But for the most part, this is where I really want to take my flyers and take my risks. One other player, Rick, that I want to run by you because I have a little bit of interest, and you talk about how zigging when everybody else is zagging. This may be an opportunity for that. And it's Patrick Rodgers, who we both have been on the past couple of weeks, and he broke a lot of hearts last week, right? He got off to a really bad start, did fight his way back, but it wasn't enough to make the cut. You can't make the cut at an event like the Sanderson Farms shooting a 41 on your first 9. It's just not going to happen. But I wonder, was that just an anomaly? Was that just because he's been playing great before that? He's a great putter. He's got plenty of distance. Do you think there's any chance that was an anomaly and the week we thought he would have last week happens this week?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So nothing has fundamentally changed about Patrick Rodgers. And you're right. I think he was like the 4th or 5th highest owned golfer on the slate last week. I mean, he was very popular, and he's going to leave a lot of jaded owners in his wake this week. He's going to come in much lower owned than last week. And you're right. It wasn't like, you can have bad missed cuts. This was not great, but like he played 27 holes pretty good. You know,
that's the thing. Like, is there, how do you miss the cut? Are you you're just not making any putt? You make all par. You just can't get anything going. Or do you make a triple on a hole or make a quad that throws you out of it? Those are 2 very different things. And when I see 9 holes that go like that and the rest of it is pretty good, I don't feel like he's lost his game.
So fundamentally, you still get a guy who hits it far and putts well, which should be right in the sweet spot of what you're looking for this week at TPC Summerlin.
Yeah, I kind of think you go back to the well with this one. If your heart was broken last week, I think there's opportunity here. Go for it.
Forgive and forget. Give him one more chance. Come on, he can't do it to you again.
If he does, this price is way down this week, so I think you take the chance.
All right. I love it. Greg, if I gave you $100 in Las Vegas, where would you take it? To the blackjack table, roulette? What would you do with it?
The golf course.
The golf course. You take it and play golf.
There's great golf in Las Vegas. So yeah, I think that's what I do. I'm sure that's the fun answer that everybody was hoping for. But look, I'm not going to just spend that all on the greens fee. I may have to add a little bit in, and maybe you and I, Rick, can play a little Nassau game or something.
I'm going to need some strokes, but we will definitely.
Everything's negotiable. Everything's negotiable.
I love it. There is a lot of great golf in Vegas, and we're going to get 2 straight weeks of it. Greg, who you can find on Twitter at @TheRealGFD. We've got preview pod coming on Tuesday. You know, that's coming, the mega pod with all the best bets and the picks and all that good stuff. But until then, you can find me on Twitter at RickRunGood. This has been The First Cut, and we'll catch you next time.